morning, good afternoon and good evening to everyone wherever you may be tuning in to today's episode from around the globe. We are here at the 2025 ARA show in Las Vegas. This is episode number 4, and this afternoon I'm excited to be accompanied by 2 guests and discussing all things rental software in the world of data-driven rental technologies. Today I'm joined by Tye, product manager with InTempo Software, based in the beautiful state of Florida, and all the way from Boston, Vice President of Global Partnerships with Wise Systems, Erin Blair. Gents, good afternoon, and thank you for your time during your busy show schedule, and welcome on the Rental Journal.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Guys, for the audience listening in, it'd be great to start with an introduction on yourselves, your respective businesses, and your current roles within your organizations.
My name's Anthony Tye. People call me Tony. We're product manager with InTempo Software. Currently, we have a couple of products I'm working on. InTempo MX Connected Assets, which is telematics focused, and then Tempo CTX, which is a connected transport.
Erin Blair, work with Wise Systems. We partnered with InTempo to bring the best of machine learning and AI to the rental industry. We work globally with different freight carriers, different ERP systems, and we're really excited what we built with InTempo.
Tony, from my understanding, you've had quite a unique journey, like many of us in the rental industry, working all the way from the ground up, cleaning down equipment in the rental yard, in the wash bay. I definitely know the feeling. You've dedicated your life to rental, working across multiple aspects of the industry, from rental and sales with United Rentals and Rental Inc., working as a service provider, as a Komatsu dealer, and as an end user and construction contractor, engaging with rental companies as a customer, handling fleet maintenance and fleet management in the coal industry, and joining InTempo in 2018 as project manager with a focus on rental software. You've really seen it all.
Yeah, it's been fun. You know, it definitely goes back and kind of shows my age, tells my age. You know, I started in the mining in the late 80s, so it kind of precedes rental by a little bit, so I wouldn't say it's 100% rental, but, you know, it started out in mining, probably about 10 years there, really focused on the maintenance side of the business, the house, worked in a rebuild shop, kind of started as a welder's helper, and on the wash rack, you know, washing equipment. You know, from there, we made the move into the dealership world, where I did work as a Komatsu dealer for 7 years. Before going in as an independent, I worked as an independent, and that was unique because I worked for a lot of different forestry, construction. I worked in a lot of different areas that, you know, these areas didn't only use rental, but I used it myself when I needed it. You know, that led to coming into the rental industry, and it really helped. And then I realized just how fast-paced the rental industry was. So,
Tony, in one of your previous roles, you implemented a custom internal reporting software allowing for efficient access to information on mobile devices, produced unbelievable efficiencies, and made drastic improvements to the rental counter. Prior to the new dashboards, counter staff were constantly having to run back and forth between the shop and the counter. Leveraging this rental software saved you time, eliminated mistakes, allowed for intelligent decision-making, and aligned the collective interests of both your customers and the company, allowing you to run a leaner operation as an independent rental company, automating about 90% of your end-of-month financial tasks. A simple click of a button produced instant reconciliation and acted as a safety net to avoid errors. Tony, what did you learn from this in the trenches experience before InTempo?
Well, I think the uniqueness from my background don't come from working, you know, as an end user, as an independent, as a dealer, rental, and then in the software, but working in a lot of different job titles within that industry, right? So it's all about communication. And one of the most inefficient things I've seen in that is human communication. As sad as that sounds, right? But it's the truth.
Yeah.
And, you know, rental industry struggle with the fast pace of the industry, and they struggle with communication. So leveraging technology, leveraging the dashboarding, and not necessarily creating work for the end user, but showing them the work they were doing in a faster, more condensed space to where they had the information they needed when they needed it, you know, was the main focus. And it just changed the way a lot of them done business.
We're definitely daily decision makers and acting in a fast-paced nature in the rental industry, that's for
right.
sure.
Yeah.
Erin, you've had quite the journey and experience in the world of software, technology, SaaS, strategic business development and global partnerships over the last 15 years, very much focused and specialising in optimising logistics, dispatching and looking to enhancing route solutions. But Erin, what was your first exposure to specifically the rental industry?
Sure, yeah. So back in the 90s, I worked for construction companies doing utility work, directional boring, where we rented equipment quite frequently, generators, we had to have lights, backhoes, excavators. We had to rent a lot of equipment because we were on demand at some point. So yeah, my journey started in construction. I got into dump trucks as well to understand how fragmented some of those industries were. And then I found myself getting asked by the people that were building the software programs to get involved with building them. I don't have a software background, and now I understand the difference in how much we can help industries and help people. Like Tony's saying, can you give them the dashboards and can you give them the information in real time and help them make decisions with software, with an industry that doesn't really use a lot of software. So for us, it's exciting to help produce change, business change using technology. So it's actually a lot of fun. So that's where I spend my time, and I've been the last 8 or 10 years heavy in software globally, understanding what's being used for efficiencies and logistics, and taking those learnings and bring them to different industries. So what we learn in other industries are very applicable to rental and helping people. So it may sound odd, but we bring stuff like your pizza from Pizza Hut's getting delivered. We're going to bring that same experience to the rental world. And so with Tony's help and working with him and getting this partnership or friendship going, we've learned a lot together, and we're leveraging our experience to help bring the right technology, which it's been fun to get off the ground.
Definitely, it's a great collaboration. We're seeing such a digitization of the rental industry,
Yes.
and it's definitely a lacking element that we've been seeing, and we have been maybe a decade behind of other industries.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. I think change is hard. I mean, you have to admit it, right? Like, and I really tell people, I said, when we were digging trenches, we used backhoes, and then all of a sudden excavators showed up. And that's something people can understand. So now we give people that are in the industry the excavator, the automated part of doing this, better tool for the job. And then we help with predicting it. We help with modeling and predicting and using technology that should help them do their job a little bit, maybe a little easier. I would say it's important for people to get to softball games on Saturdays. You get your job done Monday through Friday. It's so important to be at your kids' games on Saturdays. And I think our software allows people to do that and have real transparency and management of their work, their daily activity.
Absolutely. Tony, circling back to your extensive background and magnitude of accumulated rental experience, you obviously know the world of rental, and like you mentioned, this
Right.
knowing firsthand the dynamic, sporadic nature, the busy day in, day out environment that rental operations encounter, from handling customer service, maintaining equipment, managing inventory, just to keeping up with the daily financial hurdle tasks.
Right.
Yourself and the InTempo team have such a wealth of knowledge and resources based on this foundation, a deep understanding of the challenges that we all face in the rental industry. How has this collide of real-world learning and software expertise given you an advantage when working with rental companies, and how has this helped guided you and provided a vision for the team?
It's been huge. I think just having the diversity of the understanding of the different, of how their customers are affected by what goes on in the rental house. Let's call it the rental house, right? It's very expensive for their customers when the rental house gets it wrong, right? When communications dropped, when different things does not happen, and trust me, working in these positions within the rental company, I've done it wrong every way it could probably be done wrong. So, you learn more a lot of times by doing it wrong. But when you drill into it, the majority of the problems are centered around staffing, right? And there again, the communications, the visibility, but yeah, the background. I think just knowing how departments communicate to one another, that the end result is in supplying a product or meeting a customer demand, and just knowing how all that dynamic plays and have setting in each one of these seats is then irreplaceable. I wouldn't change anything, honestly.
Tony, Erin, for you both, what are the most common challenges that rental businesses face from your perspective, the common daily challenges, areas they can optimize, enhance or streamline their operations, and how can we improve our strategies to mitigate the impact and minimize these hidden costs associated with transport, logistics and the scheduling aspects of our rental businesses?
I think we're helping them control chaos. And I think that's what it is, right? And how do we optimize that truck in that moment, in that time? And that we know, I think one of the challenges is we may be sending a truck out to do a delivery where there's a pickup a block away, but because we didn't have the data in front of us, we did, as you always say, the data doesn't lie. You know, if you look at it, we're going to allow systems to hopefully help solve some of that. But I think a lot of it is just transparency across users groups. Like Tony's saying, you've got service, you've got salespeople, you've got delivery folks, and they're all trying to work together to just get another piece of equipment out the door. And I think that if you can have visibility across all those segments and have them work together in harmony, I think that's really something that is needed, and we can see that pain.
Yeah, that's right. It always comes back to communication. You know, I always say, I truly believe that nobody in the rental world, whether it be a counter or service manager, nobody ever really wants to make a bad decision. You're right. They just don't have the tools or the visibility into the information they need to make a good one. Right. So any bad decision is usually down to those components. They have to make a decision so fast, right, to seize the opportunity of making a good one that could save money or make the most cost-effective decision they can make. But without knowing what you need to know, that's when bad decisions happen, and that's when breakdowns happen, and that's, breakdown in communication, breakdown in operations, and that's when the end result, the customers suffer.
We see this across verticals where we see people being reactionary in the moment, having to make a decision. Like you're saying, it's hard to do it. They usually do a great job, but it's hard to do that. If we, trying to help people become more proactive in their day is, I think, something that the rental industry could use. And it's hard because they're reactionary to what's happening in the moment.
It's hard to balance that opportunistic nature and the sporadic nature whilst also making these intelligent decisions. Yeah. It's a hard task.
That's right.
Right. Yeah. That's a goal, vision for this product that I had was, how can we take the load off the mundane, right, to where they can focus on the variables, they can focus on the stuff that comes in, where they have the opportunities to make a more efficient decision, whether financially or just for the customer. And then the mundane and the routine stuff they have to do falls by the wayside. Stuff gets missed. At the end of the day, stuff gets dropped, and customers are not communicated with. You just get a total breakdown at that point.
Sure. Backlogs of inventory in the field that we're missing sales because we don't have it back or hasn't been serviced. I mean, great pain points that can be solved with software. At least help for the transparency and visibility of it. Is big in the industry.
Tony, at InTempo, you pride yourselves on your mix of technology, support, and community, looking to support all rental businesses from single location rental stores to large regional rental companies. And I saw an amazing success story with your work in collaboration with Black Diamond Equipment Rentals, recently optimizing the consistency of their internal telematics data, equipment service schedules, and job site locality information, moving from just static dots on a screen to providing digestible and usable information by integrating intuitive telematics within their ERP. Tony, I'd love to hear from your perspective on how InTempo's solutions are designed with the customer in mind and how you assist them in this technology culture shift.
I think the most important thing is you got to engage your customers early, right? I think a lot of times the software company, they'll get an MVP going and then they'll get some beta users, right? But with this product you're speaking of, which is InTempo MX, and to your point, Black Diamond is a phenomenal partner with us. I have a lot of history with them, and they've been probably one of our most instrumental on helping us develop these products. So when we went with the InTempo CTX, connected transport that we're talking about, we partnered with Wise. Erin would agree that one of the very first things that come out of my mouth was this has to be a purpose-built solution, customer focused, with the customers being partner in the process from the beginning. So they're not just we call it a SIG group, but they're more than that, right? They're a development partner. So we had our customers for this particular product engaged in this product before we ever started. We had the group built. We had already had meetings with them before we started. Outside of that, you got to focus on the user, right? Not just the customer, but in the special interest group we put together, we wanted to bring in people that was actually going to be using the product. Because it doesn't matter what software you develop, and you can say you've got the best product they are, right? If the users don't want to use it because it's bulky, cumbersome, it's hard to use, it takes them more time to use a platform than it is to do it just the old way. They're going to throw it out. So you can have your COOs, your CEOs, ownerships of these companies that's fully bought into your product. They joined the SIG group, but then you put a product out there that the user's just like, what? They're not going to use it. So you got to focus on the user. Put a product that gives them a tool, not a task.
Yeah.
That supplies the end result that gives your corporate leadership, the decision makers in that regard, what they need. Right. So that's where we really put a lot of focus in on this.
Show them what you have, develop to their needs. Like Tony said, purpose built. We have a great platform that optimizes all kinds of logistics around the world. No matter what you want to do, we can optimize it. Sure. When you talk about rental equipment, you get behind the desk with someone who's a dispatcher who's dealing with these fireworks in real time. You have to listen to what they're going through and then adapt the software to do that. So we configure the software, but I think our teams together, we spend a lot of time with these SIG groups and listening and different use cases and really understanding what they're going through and where their pain points are. And I think it goes to it shows how great InTempo is as a platform, because when we entered this they had existing customers who really came to bat and wanted this. So it was really interesting to go down the road, and when I say listen, people had a lot to say. It was fun to listen to them and really dive in, because we want to solve, and that's what we do in software is we solve. And it's great to have this partnership where we're listening to people tell us what they're really going through, and they all have different pain points, all doing the same thing differently. So you really have to listen.
Aaron, talking about this commitment, and Wise Systems' tagline is to make every last mile the best one yet. Yourself and the Wise team are really the leaders at AI-driven solutions for strategic route planning, developing a delivery automation platform that streamlines every step of the last mile delivery process, being ideal for businesses that want that perfect balance between customer experience and operational efficiency, having an approach of continuous improvement towards customer service, fleet efficiency, fleet mileage, reducing carbon footprints, and eliminating late deliveries. Aaron, I'd love to give a bit of a perspective for the audience listening in, a background of your solutions at Wise, but also how you involve the industry stakeholders in the design and the development, and how you integrate these platforms specifically with ERPs.
Sure. Yeah. No. Great question. So we deal with a lot of automation first, and then optimization. So we integrate with ERP system, OMS systems, as we do with InTempo, where we pull all the orders in, and we organize them. Right. We sequence orders. We work through what the customer wants to solve for, but we start with base automation of that process and help a dispatcher get ahead of having to organize tomorrow's loads. We then go to optimization, which is then we want to figure out how we can make it smarter. How can we help them maybe optimize some of those that they didn't see, where they can get 2 or 3 pieces of equipment on a truck instead of 1. So our DNA is to really help automate a process first, and then we optimize that process. Now, in the interim of that, when we talk about learnings, like machine learning, one that's kind of, we work with partners in different verticals to do, we kind of cut our teeth in beverage, which is what we call machine learned service time. So if you're going to repeatedly go out and do something in the field, and service and rentals would kind of be this thing. We have to go out and service an excavator, and we're going to send a technician to go out and do that. Well, to get out to that job site, depending on how far it is away, and actually servicing it, it was really a 2.5-hour service time. Well, we booked 4 hours. If we can learn over and over again that that's a 2.5-hour service time, I get 1 more service a day per technician. That's a win. So our system is going to learn those nuances of either a dispatcher preferences, they keep making changes. Our system over time will start to institute those. Same thing with routers, and we do it with drivers as well. So drivers have preferences. They have places they want to go and the way they conduct their business. If it's within the business rules, our system will learn that. So the DNA of our organization is to help automate the rules, help to automate the process, and let the users deal with the exceptions of the day. That's why they're great people doing great work. But that's what we do across many verticals in freight and beverage and and other logistics scenarios.
That really links to the communication element, doesn't it, Tony?
100%. You know, it's just 90% of it. You know, if you drill down into the problems that a rental house experiences, you know, when you take staffing, take that one, that's always the problem, right? So outside of that, you look at, it comes down to communications, and it comes down to visibility, and then you add the fast pace of the rental industry on top of that. You know, it can be controlled chaos at best.
Yeah.
You know, what we've done with the help of with Wise is taken a lot of that away in very big ways. You know, when we first put this idea out to my boss, you know, 3 years ago or more, he bought into it. But a lot of people I talked to about what I wanted to do with this looked at me like I had three eyes, right? I mean, they just like, yeah, that's not what happened. But we've accomplished probably 90% of it in less than 10 months.
It's been amazing. It really has, what we've accomplished.
You know,
we married two systems together to work harmlessly and to work the way they are. It's been impressive.
One big happy family. But guys, as we know, transport coordinators face daily challenges with unique variables and deal with a magnitude of constraints in order to create a strategic plan, especially even when considering optimized routes, having to monitor, continually adjust, adapt, and whilst also needing to meet customer service requirements. Not to mention the speed of deliveries required in 2025 to call off rent, scheduling pickups, internal transfers, shifting to various sites, and the implication of the different machinery sizes that we also have to factor in as rental companies and various transportation modes. There's lots of moving parts. For you both, Tony and Erin, working with the industry and conversations with your clients, what's a normal day like in the daily ins and outs for a transport coordinator in the rental industry?
Well, I mean, I think typically when they end their day, they have a plan, right? You know, when they come in, and it's funny, I'll just give it to Erin earlier. I kind of wrote something Monday. I was writing something. I thought, this is going to make something worth a good post, right? And it's kind of about that, you know, a day in the life of a rental counter, you know. Most of the time they're getting called before they ever get to work. It changes to their plan. Right, they get to work, and then another customer calls with a breakdown, you know, and that whole time they got customers walking in that they're dealing with and handling, and then, you know, an hour later they get a call with a machine broke down in the field. You know, it's just this constant thing that's changing their plan, right? Then they get to 2 or 3 o'clock in the day, and they're like, I got a plan for tomorrow, right? So then they run their plan for tomorrow, and then they think about, okay, well, I forgot to contact this customer to tell them they were going to be late, so now they're mad probably. So it happens to the best coordinators. It happens to the best dispatchers, right? Then they throw together a plan for the next day. So and then the next day it starts over. You know, and one question I'd have for you guys is, you know, based off of what you said a minute ago, how long do you think all that takes for a rental coordinator to plan for the next day? Right. I know they're planning somewhat throughout the day, but if you say, okay, I'm going to start at 1 o'clock and I'm going to plan for 8 drivers for the next day or 6 drivers for the next day, you're talking a couple hours, 3 hours?
At a minimum 3 hours. And a lot of spreadsheets.
And whiteboards.
Whiteboards. Trying to figure it out, trying to move pieces of the puzzle around so you can make sense out of it.
But if I told you could cut that down and we could make that 15 minutes to 30 minutes for 8 drivers, would you think that would be possible?
With logic.
We're doing it now, basically.
Of your estimated table of arrival. The truck, you mentioned truck capacity. That's a big, we've had to be able to figure out, we call it derating. So we take a low boy, take a large low boy, and we actually can get it to the point where, I don't know, we can put 4 or 5 pieces of equipment on it based on where they're going, unload them properly, not overstack them or overload it. And use the right piece of equipment for the right delivery as well, and have logic in the system that's making that decisions for that dispatcher. So really it just gives them an accelerated plan in minutes for the next day that they can polish up if they want to. But as we've talked about, let's say chaos continues till 6 o'clock at night because everything's broken and I can't do anything. You can push a button, push dispatch, and tomorrow morning when those drivers show up, they're going out the door. Will it be 100%? Maybe it'll be 90 or 80%. but they'll keep moving without having any problems. They'll come in with their coffee at 5 a.m., they'll load up what they have to for a lift, they'll get on the road, and you can start your day. And now as a dispatcher, I'm not dealing with all those moments of reactionary in the moment in the morning. I'm now proactively trying to figure out how I can piece together the rest of the day, or hit our route planner, and it can help you do that as well.
It's been amazing how accurate. I can't talk enough about how smart these guys are. They're way smarter than me, right?
Well, wait a minute, hold on a second. It's not me. Right? There's a lot of other people behind me. Let's get that clear for everybody out there listening.
But yeah, they've done some amazing things with this vision I had in my mind. You know, that right now, the way it stands to where we have it is, you know, dispatcher just runs their planner, and it loads the trucks, knows the equipment sizes, knows the truck sizes. It loads the trucks. It builds the routes for 8 to 10 to 14 trucks, however many you got, in a matter of less than 2 minutes. And then they just validate it and make sure it's right, and it's done. They go home. The drivers come in the next morning. As soon as they start their shifts, it dispatches the routes to them, and they go. And then your dispatcher has time to answer that call from a salesman and say, hey, I had, you know, so-and-so's plant broke down overnight. They got to have a machine now, or their whole factory shut down, right? Then they can manage that stuff, and without taking the knee-jerk reaction, right, they can add that to the queue, which as soon as they write it in the rental man, it's totally integrated, so it comes into the queue to be dispatched. They can figure out, they could run it again for a specific driver or a specific area, and it says, okay, what's the fastest, best way to get this delivery to that customer?
Yep.
And it does all the thinking for them, and bam. Now, maybe they change it. Maybe that factory don't like a certain driver and they want it to go to a certain driver. They can always change it, right? They can always auto change what and do whatever they want to do. But the goal is the heavy lifting's done.
Yeah.
Right. We've actually created too, with Tony, we've created an impact window. So let's say something does come in for the next day that has to be done. When you put that and you run the route planner, an impact will come and say, oh, you violated some time windows with following customers. How important are they? Or do we need to readjust those and send an alert to those customers saying, hey, we thought we were going to be there at 9. We're really going to be there at noon. Is that okay with you or not? Yeah. And now I get to kind of prioritize that. My dispatcher in real time can see, how did that affect my business for the rest of the day? And then they can make educated decisions on how to adjust that. Sure. Maybe those customers didn't need it today. Maybe it was just a nice to have them, breaking ground in a couple of days, and I want the excavator out there, I can do it now, but the salesperson knows as soon as you put the order in, it can get routed and synced up with what has to happen. And pulling equipment back. I think one of the things we hear from everybody is, my backlog is so big I can't even think about it. I've got equipment everywhere and can't even know where to start to begin my day figuring it out. Well, our system will automatically have all of those pickups based on the fact that you dropped them off a month ago, and you can start to organize those or have them put into the pickup order.
I love that perspective of being proactive in a reactive industry. And that's something I wanted to get into was the backlog side. From the transportation side, how are you seeing the top performing rental companies enhancing their logistics, potentially the constraints or the benefits regarding in-house delivery versus engaging with third-party transport operators and these resulting backlogs that could occur, like you've mentioned, from either of these strategies?
Well, I think that the key takeaway here is we do have some, right, that engage way more with third-party haulers than what they want to, right? But to the point, a lot of it is knee-jerk. A lot of it is they get such a backlog of pickups. Well, now they need something picked up. They already have all the drivers out, and they don't have the visibility to be able to see where everybody's at, what's they're at. This is what they need. This is a machine that's in pickup. With this, they can run it, plan it, or they can zero in on what they need, prioritize it, rerun the planner, and it'll pick it up and get it back for what's needed. Now, we've already done stuff with this at this next level, but we're working on right now a lot of more optimization around. We've done the load optimization, is what we call loading the trucks. So the software from an AI perspective loads the trucks. It does the route optimization. So it logistically just says, okay, this is the best route for getting your deliveries, getting your pickups back today to make a good full driver's day. The next piece of that is what I call order optimization. So it's going to be looking at the data that's readily available in RentalMan, and it's going to be saying, okay, what's the need? You have 50 machines that's out here in pickup status. What's the need? What do you need back to fill reservations? What machines has a high utilization demand on them that may not have a reservation today, but you're probably going to have before the morning.
Yeah.
Right? What's the high demand machines? And then you add another component to that of, okay, is this thing due a service? That then brings into the whole nother discussion about service dispatching that's tied to this, right? So we could spend probably 4 or 5 hours sitting here talking about the whole product as a whole, but I think that gave you a glimpse into kind of where we're headed.
Yeah, we're going to put some logic behind the supply and demand. What I have coming in, what's going to happen, what does my sales look like? What do I think I'm going to be at? What is in the field? What needs to be serviced? I mean, we've even talked about logic of, should I service it in the field or should I bring it back to the depot, and which one should it go to? And then do I bounce between depots? And we have some logic. We can actually handle moves between depots, which we like. But I think what we're going to find out is that one of the things we solve for best is the supply and demand on sales. Like where do I need to pick up my? Is it lifts today? Is it bulldozers this month, this week, seasonally too? Which ones do I need to bring back? Because some equipment may want to stay in the field. You may want to keep some out there. So the logic we're building will help customers automate that process and have logic behind it.
Yeah, I think I didn't fully answer the question either a minute ago about the third-party haulers. Back up to that is, I think they got to look at the data, right? Mm-hmm. And they got to have a platform, or don't got to, but they need to have a platform that has the data to be able to see, do they truly need to leverage a third party, or do they need to add another truck? I don't think you can make a knee-jerk reaction and decide that, right? Because it's an expensive decision to decide to add a truck. When in fact, when you look at the seasonality, right? When you have the 30,000 foot view, so to speak, on what's truly going on within your deliveries, right? You may be thinking, I need a bigger truck to hire my bigger fleet. Okay, well, how often is that happening?
Yeah.
Right?
That's an emotional decision.
Exactly.
And you want to try to take that out.
Yeah, I mean, and another thing I've run into too is people making decisions about, I want to get a rollback instead of a lowboy.
Yeah.
Because I'm having a lot of downtown deliveries where lowboys have a hard time getting into, right? Okay, that might be the case, but is that seasonal? Sure. So there's so many different layers of stuff you got to look at, and having the visibility into it through a good, whether it being predictive, you may say, I'm going to have a driver. I know we're getting busy through our busy season.
Yeah, sure.
Well, how long is your busy season?
Absolutely.
Is it going to last long enough to justify, or can you just roll with a third party to get through it?
And what's the value of it?
Right.
Like, what's the real value? Once we have the data, we have a strategic planning tool as well that we're integrating with RentalMan, where customers can go in and strategically plan out what their load looks like. Hey, I historically bring this much down. We have this many jobs coming up. What's the supply? What's the demand going to be like? And how do I intend to supply it and get proactive? And then you can decide what assets you need to move it, whether it's internal, external. And you can also probably, if you get really good at using the system, you can probably dial down the cost it will take, because we're going to give those third-party haulers a mobile app to use. So we're really going to be tracking what they're doing, how they're doing it, and how they're getting there, their time of delivery, their ETAs. Customers will get the same notifications. Once we start dialing in that will inherently bring down the cost of third-party haulers tremendously.
Sure. Guys, in today's data-driven world, we all love data. It would be great to hear some success stories, recent case studies, and well-performing applications, and how this has really changed the game for the rental industry.
Yeah, we've done a lot. I mean, we had like I said, for CTX, we had a really good participation in a special interest group, right? So far, it's been an overwhelming success with them. We've got 5 if we started with 8, because we was really selective in the group and what we wanted to pick. We wanted to focus on size, small ones, multi-location industry. We've got some that's dealer rental hybrids, So how do we function in that world? So we really was selective. And the ones we've chosen have been great partnerships. And the feedback that we're getting from the drivers, even the seasoned drivers, that's use different things, all kinds of stuff. They do the ELD stuff. They love the app. It's simple. It's focused. It's not overwhelming to learn. It's not hard to use, but it's effective.
Sure.
It gives them what they need. That's been a huge success with the end users of the product. From a dispatcher standpoint, we've had a huge level of acceptance with that, and just freeing up their time.
Yeah.
Nothing other than that is just freeing up their time.
We also found in the first couple of our SIG group members a mass, almost a elimination of backlogs within a week's time of using it. Now, we have to do some more of this, but what our goal is to enhance that backlog if they want to, so they minimize all equipment in the field when needed, and have a timing on it. Your backlog has a timing depending on if you picked it up. So we're hearing some great feedback on that. We'll have the case study on that soon. Okay. The other one we heard too is dropping a pin. Our mobile app, you can go out and drop a pin. So let's say a driver goes to a long lap point because it's a field on a roadside somewhere, right? It's a mile marker, right? Somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and no one has an address. What do we have now? The driver goes out, he finds the location, finds the contractor, and drops a pin on the app. Now that address stays with that contractor for that job. So the next time we go out, it drives that truck right to that pinpoint and allows us to have an accurate spot. So that's another use case where we're finding efficiencies with the drivers, and we do have great feedback. We have boots on the ground a lot when we do these rollouts in other industries, other verticals. We go to DCs, we sit down with drivers, we driver training. Tony's done an amazing job with his team getting drivers up to speed quickly. And we've seen just great usability on the mobile application because we monitor that as a software company.
Sure.
And we've seen great usability, to his point, of the drivers really using it easily and it not being more of an asset to them.
Guys, in 2025, rental operators are always expressing how the dispatching process is a challenge, and especially when factoring in urban traffic conditions in city centres. Erin, how does the implementation of AI and machine-based learning technologies within the CTX specifically continuously enhance this experience? Does it reduce the manual associated work with dispatching, or how does this continuous and ongoing learning lead to future optimization?
So you start with the right map foundation. You've got to start with the right tool and taking in that real-time traffic, real-time construction, toll roads. The other thing too we use heavy haul mapping. So only the roads that heavy construction equipment can go down. For instance, if you're dispatching lowboys, you really shouldn't be using a citizens or a general application for a turn-by-turn navigation. You should really be using a truck navigation.
Yeah.
So we use that in our back end to support this solution. And then we learn off of it. We learn what the behaviors are of everybody that's in this chain that has to get that equipment where it has to go. We learn on how they do their daily activities. I think a lot of it comes down to using the right map sets that we use and using the right technology to meet the industry where it needs to be met with a purpose-built solution. Is really where we're seeing in 2025. I see more optimization. Tony had said, I see us really heading into more of a decision-making process on what's in the field, what the supply and demand, if you would.
Sure. Guys, what advice would you give to smaller rental businesses who are looking to purchase their own internal delivery modes and scale their personal transport fleet to potentially moving away from third-party logistics coordinators? And it might be helpful to provide some contrasting viewpoints when this might be situationally different, or when you factor in the increases in scale going from a mum and pop location to a 3 to 5 to a 25 plus location rental store.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the conversation we had a second ago, right? Look at the data, right? Don't make a knee-jerk reaction on adding fleet, right? Look at the data and make sure that it's not the opposite. Make sure you are better off in situations using a third-party hauler. But I think having the confidence that if you're going to add trucks, you definitely want a solution that's going to give you the visibility into what's going on, that's going to take managing those trucks easier, more efficient would be the main thing. But it all goes back to the data, right? I told Aaron this, the data never lies. It's kind of like AI. You're just not asking the right questions. Yeah. So people from my background in dealing with analytics, some people say, well, the data's not right. I'm like, well, the data's never wrong. You're just not asking the right question.
Sure.
Not looking at it correctly.
So
I think that the one thing I would suggest to anybody is to use a software platform before making decisions. See how it operates. See what happens when you're at load capacity. See what happens when you're actually optimizing the existing fleet you have before you make any decision making at all.
Right.
See how a software system can change the way the business operates, and you may be surprised that you don't need any more vehicles.
Sure.
You may be able to get plenty of increase in business. What we do in our world is we hopefully open up sales supply. What we want to do is we want to open up capacity. In freight, it's very you have a 53-foot straight job, and it's only 85% utilized. I have 15% left over that's open for my salespeople to go after. In our world, we want to do this thing with rental. How can we get to the point where where salespeople are being asked to go out and fill orders for Wednesday or Thursday because we're short now, our drivers are sitting around. And that's what we want to try to figure out is how do we take what we have today, optimize it, and then I think then you can use the data to make an educated decision on what to buy or which road to go down. Do you use third-party low boys when you need them? Or are you using internal? Are you buying a rollback? Maybe. But I would let the software almost tell you.
Guys, like all of our episodes here in the Rental Journal, we finish with the question of how do you define success, future aspirations and future goals with this partnership that you have between InTempo and Wise, and how you're looking at further maximizing this experience with your joint venture, and some words of wisdom after your both individual successful careers and guidance for the audience at home.
I think from a software perspective, it's your users, ultimately your customers tell you if you succeed, right? At the end of the day. If your end users are using it, and it's producing the results that your corporate leadership, the people that's writing the checks for the software, right, that's giving them what they want, and it makes the users want to use your product. That's the key. I think if you do that, everything else will fall into place.
Happy customers. I think happy customers define success. We want to help with change. We want to help people in a software world change for the better. Do we lower miles? Do we lower emissions? We're all spending money on fuel. Can we just reduce the amount of fuel we're buying today? We're going to use it. We love it, right? It's great. But how do we help use software to inspire change that ultimately helps the entire community? So for us, if you have a rental location somewhere where you don't necessarily want to be driving through a school zone when the school zone's out during the day, our software can help you eliminate that. It's a better community all over. There's ways we can do it to make that organization maybe run a little smoother or a little different and help with change and help institute software. I think that's what defines success for us, which is happy customers, man. That's what we like.
That's it. They're not going to be happy and giving them a solution to a problem.
Yes.
Is the key.
Sure.
And that's if you don't back up from challenge on doing.
No,
I mean,
we've had challenges.
We hit it the worst one right off the bat. I mean, we have a BHAG for this product. A big, hairy, audacious goal. Right. We know where we want to go, and we're just getting started. I mean, we've just scratched the surface, and already the feedback we've gotten and the impact it's having is kind of set me back and really made me think about where this product can go. Over the next year, I'm going to step out on a limb and say this, over the next year, I think people will be really impressed. I mean, we want to be the first to do this. And when people think about it, we want to be the name that comes to their mind and, hey, these guys did this. Yeah. And one of the things, I'm not going to say it, but one of the things I told him we couldn't do, screw this up.
We can't screw it up. No, we can't screw it up.
We made a commitment to each other. Don't mess it up. We'll succeed if we don't mess it up, right?
We just got to keep listening to customers, and we keep plowing forward. You're not going to get it right 100% of the time. I think we're all human, and we just have to be real about what we're trying to solve for in the moment. Keep it simple, and I think the one thing that's been a lot of fun with this is that it is about people. And our teams that have worked together to try to, we have 2 different software companies along with some other folks trying to figure out how to make customers build a solution for them. And they're talking to all of us at the same time. And I think we're all listening, we're all communicating so well that I see great things in 2025 for this product as well. I think it's based because of the people involved. I think we've got 2 really good software companies that are working to solve in an industry that's has shown us they want. They're answering the call. They want us to help with
Right.
this.
Sure.
That's the fun part about it.
Tony, Erin, thank you once again for your time. Thank you to InTempo and Wise. You've been such trailblazers enhancing rental operations around the globe. And once again, thank you. Congratulations on your recent partnership. Enjoy the show. Enjoy Las Vegas, and best of luck in 2025.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.